Good evening, everybody. It's Friday once again. Welcome back to my man cave. We've got Jeff here with us as usual, and Tanya upstairs running the show. It is Friday. It's my favorite night of the week these days, and we're going to start off just like we do every week. I'm going to have a drink. I hope some of you guys are going to maybe have a drink with us. Uh, if you're having a drink with us, or even if you're not, leave us a comment over here. Let us know where you are, where you're watching from, and if you're having a drink, let us know what you're having. Tonight, here in the man cave, I'm going to have some of my Uncle Nearest. And if you're not familiar with Uncle Nearest, you probably should be because Uncle Nearest Green, is the man who taught Jack Daniel how to make whiskey. So there are some great videos on YouTube. There's this little documentary video. It's about 10 or 12 minutes long. If you have any interest in that whatsoever, have a look at that. Jeff, how are you this evening?
I'm doing great. Got me some Eagle Rare,
All
loving
right,
life.
Eagle Rare. Tanya, are you
Yeah.
drinking with us tonight?
Ginger ale
Ginger
and my
ale.
fancy Tar Heel
You know,
Yeti.
back when I was a young lad, I used to put ginger ale with what's that Canadian whiskey blend? That's Crown Royal. Is that Canadian?
Yeah.
Crown and ginger ale. That was a thing when I was young. So cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Anthony's having a glass of red wine. That's good. Tanya, we're going to bring you back a little bit later on. Thanks for doing what you do up there. All right. First thing I want to run by you guys. Last week, something happened on the live stream that I didn't know about until after the fact. YouTube, or not YouTube, Facebook. We're streaming, by the way, to Facebook and YouTube at the same time. So I've got people watching from both platforms. And Facebook has activated a feature in my live streaming that I was not aware of until it actually happened last week. There's this thing, if you're watching on Facebook, you may see this thing about sending stars, and I think you can only see that if you're watching from the Facebook platform, and it's a way to send donations to me. I did not know they had turned that on until I got a couple of donations from a couple of you guys last week. And the first thing I wanted to say is I'm not here soliciting donations, and that's not why that's on. It's just a default thing with Facebook. I could shut it off, but I'm going to leave it on. If you guys want to make a contribution there, feel free. I will put it towards the money that it costs me to have this software to do this live stream. I'm streaming with a live streaming platform called StreamYard. I buy an annual subscription to their basic plan, which that element of it's $200 a year, and I'm spending an extra $100 a year to have some additional features that I'm working here with Jeff and with Tanya on, where we can do this thing and make it better. So if any of you do that, just be uh, confident that what I will do is I will take that and put it towards the cost of what it actually cost me to run this live stream. I'm not trying to make money from this live stream. I do this because I love it and I enjoy hanging out with you guys on Friday night. So I wanted to, you know, pass that by you and let you know that I didn't realize that that had happened until after the fact last week. So that's what that is if you see it and if you're watching from the Facebook platform. You cooked this week, Jeff?
Well, I started the week off with some beef ribs, which were fantastic, and then I had to make me some more chicken white chili. I mean, that stuff is off the hook.
Oh
And I
yeah.
followed up with a couple of pork tenderloins that we marinated in the Sweetwater's button rib marinade, and then topped it off with some AGC pecan. Oh
Right.
my God. I'm telling you, John, if you would have been here and you would have taken a bite of those, your eyes would have rolled back in the back of your head and you would have still been going, man, that's
Well,
good.
Alan, glad you could make it with us tonight. I like pork tenderloin, and Tanya likes pork tenderloin also. So I'm gonna probably get that on the agenda here real soon. I guess you're still flying the with the Bark as your flagship right now. The
Oh
Bark
yeah.
pellet smoker. Yep.
Yep. That thing is, I mean, it's a beast.
So yeah, that's all I've cooked on this week too. I'm still pushing the thing through its paces. Since I got that Bark set up and running, I figured out last week I had about 40 pounds of pellets on hand when I got the Bark. I had given some pellets a couple of years ago to my brother-in-law, and he never used them, and they were being stored in Tanya's dad's basement. So I found out that they were still there. So there were 200 pounds of hickory pellets out there, and right after I got the Bark, I had him bring me some of them. He brought me 100 pounds of them, and I've burned through 120 pounds of pellets on that smoker already. And I went back over there yesterday and got the other 100 pounds uh, that I'm going to go ahead and burn through. The pellets that I like to use come from Academy Sports, and they're the B&B brand oak pecan cherry blend.
Hmm.
That's my favorite, but they've been out of them at my Academy Sports
Yep.
for a while now, and I haven't been able to get any more. So I've gone back and I've decided I'm going to go ahead and use these pellets that I had given away since they didn't get used. They sat in my father-in-law's basement. I know they've been there for at least 2 years because they were part of what I got through Traeger when I was dealing with Traeger. They were the Traeger pellets. And so he's glad to get them out of his basement. So I brought another 100 pounds of those here, and I'm hoping I can find my oak pecan cherry blend before I burn through another 100 pound of these pellets.
I don't even want to tell you how many pounds of pellets I've burned through, John.
You're you have a pretty nice stash of the Myron Mixon
Yeah.
brand.
Yep.
How do you like them?
I tell you what, so far they've been really good, John. I will say they're very clean burning. They're very consistent, holding the temperature and the smoke profile, the flavor profile that you're getting. It's
Right.
it's right on the money. I mean, it's not overpowering. You've got to smoke, but you're not going, oh God, let me go get the dirty ashtray out of my mouth.
Well, I'm gonna grab some of those next time I'm at Atlanta Grill Company just to try them out. Do you have? Are there any particular variety of what you've tried on the Mixon line that you like better than anything else?
I like their mixed blend of the cherry and oak. That's there's one other flavor in there. I forget what it is. That's the first bag that I've gone through,
Is
but
it maple?
it may be. They loaded me up with what, five bags of each one.
Yeah.
There's 4 different blends, and it's supposed to be coming out with some peach here pretty soon. So like I
Are
said, I've
they
got
all blends or any of them single
no.
wood?
Some of them are single hickory.
Yeah.
I think there's a post oak in there and 2 blends.
Anthony, I don't know how to answer that question. Uh, I really don't because what that's going to boil down to pellets. In my history with pellets, I have bought pellets that are as cheap as $8 for a 20-pound bag,
Yep.
and I have bought pellets that are as expensive as $35 for a 20-pound bag. So there's a pretty big variety there. And let me tell you, as far as burn quality goes, I don't believe that the $35 bag is any better than the $8 bag. I don't know how to describe this, Jeff. Have you ever had problems with any pellets you've
No,
cooked with? I
no,
haven't
and I've
either. I've
cooked.
never had problems.
Or
So
Sam's has a 40-pound bag for like $18. Uh,
yeah,
it's a blended bag. Those have worked good. I mean, the B&B, that's my go-to. I like the B&B, but these mixing ones, they're good. They're real good. They're consistent. They got a good flavor profile.
Anthony, to answer that question, you'd need somebody that had some scientific testing methods, because when you're looking at fuel, the way I would want to geek out with the numbers on that, so I would want to figure out what the BTU potential per pound is, and I don't know what that is. I don't know how to gauge whether 20 pound. I'm fairly confident that 20 pounds of lump charcoal is going to have more BTU potential than 20 pounds of pellets, because lump charcoal is good. Lump charcoal is fully carbonized, and the charcoal that's fully carbonized has a higher heat potential than the charcoal that's not, and the pellets are not carbonized at all. So the difference between lump charcoal and pellets is all of the volatiles that still exist in unburned wood is still there in the pellets as well. So pound per pound, lump charcoal is probably a cheaper fuel source than pellets. I don't know, Jeff. Do you have any idea on that or any thoughts?
No, I tend to agree with you. I think lump is going to be a little cheaper in the long run. Particularly, I mean, when you look at, you talk about the price of pellets, anywhere from $8 a bag to $35 a bag. Well, you got the same thing with lump. You got the low end cowboy, which I've never had any problems with. Some people, they swear at it. Other people swear to it. So I think it's all a case of whatever you like, burn.
Tom here. Go back to Tom's comment, Tanya. Tom says he can burn $20 worth of pellets in a long cook and $20 worth of lump lasting for 3 to 5 cooks. Now, that is a fair statement in Tom's situation. Tom has a pellet grill that he's got a large Yoder. He's got the Yoder 1500. Tom, correct me if I'm wrong there, that's not still what you're cooking on, but the Yoder, if you guys aren't familiar with Yoder, they're not insulated, but they are heavy steel, and Tom's got the larger one of the two. My Yoder that I had was the 640, which was about half the cooking capacity of the one Tom's got, and I could easily burn through a pound to a pound and a half of pellets per hour at 250 on my Yoder. And Tom has the bigger version of the same thing. So that's all pellet grills aren't created equal when it comes to fuel efficiency. The Yoder, from the pellet grills that I've had, the Yoder was the least fuel efficient, and it is that way because it was a larger cooking chamber and it was not insulated in any way. The most efficient, this Mixon's coming in. This Mixon's as efficient as the Traeger, the smaller Traeger that I had for sure. And I'm not even going to bring the pellet Joe into this conversation because it's a different animal. I don't even want to go there, but it's about the efficiency of the cooking chamber on the pellet grill. But
well, I say, John, on my 12-hour cook on the Mixon, I only used probably less than 7 pounds of pellets.
The last cook I did, what was it I did the other day that, well, I haven't actually weighed out pellets yet to see how long that thing will run, because ambient outdoor temperature plays a role in it as well. And you and I are in a slightly different situation there. You're pumping air into your pellet smoker that's warmer than the air I'm pumping into mine. So
not lately.
Well, yeah, I know it's been a little cold down there in Florida.
Not lately.
So yeah, I try not to. Honestly, guys, I try not to worry about the cost of my fuel, because if I'm going to worry about a couple of dollars of fuel difference when I'm cooking on $1,000 grill or a $2,000 grill, I've got my priorities mixed up.
Yep.
I try not to even worry about that. When it comes to buying fuel, I buy the fuel that I want. Brian, glad you could make it. I buy the charcoal that I like. I buy, everybody's got their preferences, and you should buy what you like and what works best for you. So let's have a look at some pictures of some stuff this week. The only real cooking I did this week Well, first of all, let me bring this guy up. Our sauce of the month with the Atlanta Grill Company thing is this Carolina sauce, and I wrote up a post about this on Atlanta Grill Company's Facebook page yesterday. This is a classic example of what's called a Carolina mustard sauce, and this sauce kind of originates in the upstate of South Carolina. It's not really a North Carolina sauce, but this is a tangy mustard and a cider vinegar based sauce that's really off the hook. If you guys have not tried this style of sauce, you should at some point, because I'm a big fan, as you probably know, of the sweet sauce, the Kansas City style sweet sauce, even the Memphis style sauce, and the Western North Carolina style sauce that has the brown sugar or molasses or whatever sweetness to it. This is not that, but I enjoy this sauce for a lot of other things, including pulled pork barbecue. Every now and then, you may want to change gears from a sweet sauce to something that's not so sweet, and this is a perfect place to go. This works on pulled pork, but I also like to use this on beef, on chicken, just whatever. This also would make a beautiful glaze on a salmon fillet, and
That's what I was just fixing to say, John.
I may actually do, since this is the sauce of the month, I may try to work in a fish cook before the end of the month, and I may use this sauce on it, because this will be great on that. And Mark, this is not similar to the farm sauce.
No.
When you think about, if you haven't tried the farm sauce, if you have had the farm sauce, you'll know that the farm sauce is a horseradish backbone. It's prominent horseradish, and this is not like that. This is if you haven't had the combination of cider vinegar and yellow mustard, I don't know how to describe it. Jeff, are there words to describe that flavor that you?
No, it's a flavor profile all its own. I mean,
yeah, and I also do like some varieties of mustard sauce that also have had brown sugar added. It becomes almost a honey mustard. It gives it a honey mustard characteristic. If you add brown sugar or honey or molasses into something like this, it morphs it into something that's even more amazing sometimes. And we'll talk about that some more later. But yeah, Tom, it is a great change of pace. It's a great sauce, and it's one of my favorites. So anyway, let's move along. I bought some beef ribs last week. I went to my local Publix, and for those of you who have Publix available to you, they don't sell racks of ribs like this unless you ask for them. They have these beef short ribs on hand down there because they cut them into short ribs and sell them that way, and then they cut the length of them to make those, I don't know what they call those, where you've got a long slice that's got
Korean ribs.
What are they?
Korean ribs.
Korean style ribs or whatever. Yeah, they sell them that way. But when I figured out that they might be cutting those, when Publix opened where I live, I asked the butcher, I said, can I get a whole rack of those ribs from you? And he said, yeah, but you'll have to buy. They actually made me buy both of them, because they get these things come to them in two. Each box they get has 2 4-bone racks in it. But this trip down, the guy that I dealt with only made me buy the one rack. He didn't make me buy both of them. But this rack weighed, I don't remember what I said it weighed. It was 3.5 pounds. Maybe it was a little lighter than what I'm used to getting from them. I've gotten them as big as 4.5 and 5 pounds before, but this one wasn't quite as meaty as the rest of them. So what you're seeing here is I kind of trimmed the fat cap off on the top side, or most of it. And then I went to the bottom side and took the membrane off. The membrane on the bottom side of a rack of beef short ribs is a hard membrane to pull. It does not come off as easily as your pork spares or your baby backs do. You have to kind of work at this one. And in reality, you just need to get it off the meat. You can leave bits of it on the bone and it's not going to be a problem for you. But what I did here was just took it off. And then, since this month's rub of the month is Himalayan Sherpa, I was going to, I'm going to feature that on this cook. But I also went back to the W sauce, just like last week when we did the tomahawk. I smeared W sauce on this rack of ribs as a binder, and I seasoned it fairly liberally with the Himalayan Sherpa, which is our salt, pepper, garlic blend. And I left it on this quarter sheet pan you see here on the rack, and I tossed that guy in the refrigerator and kind of let it dry brine and do its thing overnight. Because once again, I know you've heard me say this 1,000 times now, I like to season my meat well in advance and let that salt go to work. It's worth it. And here they are the next morning. I got out fairly early the following morning and got the mixing fired up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. I wanted to try a test on this, and that was successful. And we're going to talk about that too. So I tossed these guys on, and I was only running at 200 degrees. And let me talk about that for a moment. Jeff, when people talk about pellet grills, what's their number one complaint?
Can't get them low enough.
Well, you can't get enough smoke. They don't like the smoke profile. One of the things I've been trying to sort out, a way around that. And one of the things that I've noticed on about every pellet smoker I've ever cooked on, the lower temperature you cook at, the more smoke the thing's puffing. So, and that's not any different with this one. It's really, really putting out a lot of good smoke at 200 degrees. I haven't run mine at 180 yet. I need to try that sometime. But what I decided I wanted to do here was I wanted to run this rack of ribs at 200 degrees until I was happy with what they looked like on the outside before I wrapped them and ran the temperature up. So here's another picture along the way in the cook. And you can see here how this rack of ribs is taking on color from the smoke. You can see this beautiful red color developing underneath. Janice, glad you could be with us too. It's taken on a really nice color. So I don't remember where I was in the cook stage here. This was probably, I don't know, 2 hours. No, this was probably about the 3.5 hour mark, maybe. And I made a little video here where you can kind of see how much smoke this thing's puffing when it's set at 200 degrees. It's really putting out a good bit of smoke. And it's all smoke from the pellet fire because this grill's clean. There's nothing in there burning to create that smoke. That's all smoke we're getting from the smoker itself. So Jason, this particular cook, I was using hickory pellets that were Traeger branded hickory pellets. And here we are. Let me see what my next picture is here. No, here this is about 6 hours into the cook right here. This is how we looked. The one other conclusion I made from this cook is the W sauce, using the W sauce as a binder on a cook like this, I don't think is a great idea. It tastes good, it makes a good flavor, but I believe the W sauce slowed down the bark formation for me on this particular cook. And I'm going to continue to use Worcestershire sauce as a binder on beef, but if for a low and slow binder, I'm probably going to use straight Worcestershire sauce that is a more of a watery liquid than using the W sauce, which is thicker. So here, up here is about this is close to where I decided I wanted to wrap. I was pretty happy with what these guys look like on the outside at this point. And this was 7.5 hours in at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So I wrapped them up. I ran the temperature of the smoker up to 275, and it took another 1.5 hours. So I went for a total of 9 hours on this cook. And this is what they look like when I decided to check them for probe tenderness at about the 9-hour mark. And I was right where I wanted to be here. You can see how much pullback we've got on those bones. And this was looking real good. So I wrapped them back up, I popped them off, and I let them rest for about 10 or 15 minutes before I took these guys apart. And then this is what we ended up with. And you can see here, I've got a decent bark here. There's nothing really wrong with this bark, but I think I get a little bit better bark. I think the W sauce may not be the right solution for this cook. As much as I love that stuff, I'm going to move away from that on the low and slow. But anybody that tells you can't get a smoke ring off a pellet grill must be doing something wrong. Because Jeff,
Yeah.
the ribs that you cooked, you had a smoke ring that was every bit as good as this.
Yep, but just about the identical looking smoke ring.
And man, that's a deep smoke ring. And Jeff and I were talking about this before we started the stream tonight. Another thing that I believe is that I think a lot of the things we do when we prep our meat actually inhibit smoke ring formation. And I'm going to tell you why I believe that. And this is a perfect picture to help describe what I'm getting ready to tell you. First of all, when we're seasoning with something like Himalayan Sherpa, that's a salt, pepper, and garlic blend, you don't put as heavy a coat on your meat with this, because this is probably at least 50% salt, I'm guessing. I don't know exactly what it is in this particular mix, but there's a lot of salt in that. So you don't cake it on your meat like you might with a rub like this Georgia butts and ribs, which has got a lot of brown sugar, a lot of paprika, and not as much salt. And as you saw when I seasoned that meat back in the early pictures here, let me scroll back to that. The meat is not completely invisible underneath the rub. You can still see the meat grain through there. When I'm using a rub like the Georgia butts and ribs, I put it on there thick enough where I can't see the meat underneath it. That's what really needs to happen with a rub like that. But with this setup, you've got the meat itself, the muscle fibers are still exposed to the air and the smoke in the grill. And as you can see throughout this cook, the meat underlying this is taking on color from the smoke in the grill. And you can see that this red that's forming here, that's what's helping create your smoke ring. So if you guys ever get the opportunity to do beef or pork even, you can do this exact same thing with a pork butt. Season it with a simple salt, pepper, garlic blend like I've done here, and watch your smoke ring come together. It's gonna help that, because it's gonna allow the nitrogen content that's in that smoke to interact with the meat surface, which is what causes that smoke ring. It's not the smoke itself. It's a chemical reaction going on there. But when you slather mustard or something all over your meat and then a thick rub, I think my opinion is that can really inhibit the smoke ring formation. And also, I'll qualify all this by saying that smoke ring's nothing but sexy. I mean, it's not contributing to your flavor. It's not changing the quality of that meat. If that meat didn't have this smoke ring on it, it would still taste as good as it does with the smoke ring. That smoke ring's just a chemical reaction. So, but it does look good, and it's kind of a what, Jeff, a badge of honor or a rite of
Absolutely.
passage.
Rite of passage.
It's what we like to see. It looks good. So it's a presentation thing. You want to, I think, I try to get smoke rings, good smoke rings, even though I know they don't contribute to flavor. But
it's the eye appeal of them. It's a gorgeous looking thing.
It is. And this is going to kind of lead me into the next thing we're going to talk about. What's going on here. All right, let me come back. I'll come back to this picture here in just a minute. Let's move on. The next thing I did this week, I went shopping at Sam's Club yesterday or the day before yesterday. I guess I don't remember what days did that. Anyway, I bought some brisket this week, and I saw something I hadn't seen at my local Sam's Club before. What you see here, is a piece of a brisket flat. And my local Sam's Club used to not do this. You either got the whole flat or you didn't get anything. They sell whole packers and they sell flats. And the flats are expensive. This one here is $8 a pound. It's $7.98 a pound for the flat, but it's not the whole flat. This one only weighed 2.94 pounds, and it weighed about 2.4 pounds after I trimmed it up the way I wanted it. So I bought this because I wanted to do another. You guys, when I asked a while back, one of the things you said you wanted to see was pastrami. So I've actually got a pastrami project going here, and I like to make pastrami from brisket flat. I didn't want to buy a whole flat, and I wasn't gonna buy a whole flat, but when I could get this one for that price, I said, let's do that. And we got a pastrami project going. But I also picked up a whole packer. So we're gonna do a brisket next week because I haven't cooked a brisket in a long time, and I've been barking about buying a brisket because of the price. This guy was $4.88 a pound. This is a choice Angus beef brisket. They had prime, and the prime's $5.88 a pound, and I just didn't want to spend the extra. I've bought prime and choice Angus beef from my Sam's Club, and I can't tell the difference in the two, to be quite honest with you. I've never gotten a bad brisket from Sam's Club, no matter whether I've bought choice Angus or I've bought prime. They've all been excellent. And I can't tell the difference in them. So I bought a 14-pounder because, well, actually that one's 15. No, it's 13. That label says 13.89, I think. That's my sweet spot. I like to buy briskets that are in the 13 to 15 pound range. And this is the only one that size they had in the case. Everything else they had in the case was 18 pounds and up, which is even more expensive at nearly $5 a pound. So I bought this guy. It's in the refrigerator. I'm going to cook this next week. We're going to do a brisket cook. And I'm going to employ some of the same technique that I used on this rack of beef ribs with the brisket. I'm going to slow cook it. I'm going to do a overnight session. I'm going to let it go at least 12 hours on the bark at 200 degrees. And then I'm going to evaluate it at that point and see if it's ready to be wrapped. If it is, I'm going to wrap it, run the temperature up, and finish it. Because those beef ribs had enough smoke flavor on those things that I wouldn't have never in my mind, in all my experience, guessed that those had been cooked on a pellet grill. They had every bit of the smokiness I would have expected to get from a Kamado or anything else I might have cooked that on. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that same technique on the Myron Mixon bark and see how we pan out. Jeff, you've already done a brisket on yours, right?
Yep.
What technique did you use?
I just did the salt, pepper, garlic, and went at 225 till it got to about 160, 165, wrapped it up, jacked the temperature up to 275 till it probed.
How big was yours?
Mine was 17 pounds before I trimmed it, and it got down to 14 and a half after I trimmed it.
Yeah.
Which puts it right there in that sweet spot.
That might be something else I do. I'm probably going to take my fat trimmings and throw them on the smoker with it and let them render out and have some smoked beef tallow when we're done. Have you ever tried that?
I've never made smoked beef tallow, but I imagine that would probably be pretty good.
It is. It's definitely good. But anyway, guys, this is what you got to look forward to next week. Next week's cooking video will be the beef brisket. So anyway, I made up a cure. I've done pastrami before, and I've done several methods of curing. I wanted to do a dry cure this time rather than a wet cure. So I mixed up. This is the curing rub I made to go on this. And up here in the upper left corner, you've got the pink curing salt, which is the Prague powder #1. And here, I'll give you guys all the quantities that I used here in the video description, because this will have to be scaled up or down depending on the weight of the piece of meat you're going to cure, or if the brisket flat. This needs to be dealt with a brisket flat. But this is kosher salt, brown sugar, black pepper, ground coriander, and ground mustard. Now, you're going to say, well, this is a curing brine or the curing rub. In reality, the only pieces that have to be here at this stage are the kosher salt and the curing salt. The brown sugar, pepper, coriander, and mustard. You don't have to have that. I like to put it on there because I know it does contribute to the flavor of my meat. But what's going to happen, or what I've done, is I took that. There's the brisket after I trimmed it up. I trimmed off the fat cap, and I trimmed the edges out on it a little bit to shape it the way I wanted it also. And then I took all of that rub, because it's calculated based on the weight of the meat. Put it some on both sides of it, and then I vacuum sealed it, and I've put it in my refrigerator. It's going to go for 4 days with this on it. And this is the last picture I've got in my set, because that's as far as I am. I just put that in the refrigerator about 24 hours ago, so it's got 3 more days to go. I'm going to pull it out Monday evening or Tuesday morning and go to the next step. But the next step on this, you have to desalinate this a little bit. This is going to have to go in a cold water bath for 4 to 8 hours. And otherwise, it'll be too salty because of this curing technique. And you're going to say, well, all those flavors that you put there are going to get lost in that water bath. Well, they won't. You have to trust me that they won't. But we're going to make another rub after I've gone through that process for when we smoke this. I think I'm going to actually simplify my pastrami rub when I season this guy before we smoke it, because pastrami rub, if you guys have ever had like New York deli style pastrami, it's got 2 primary ingredients in it. Jeff, do you know what those are?
No, pepper.
That's the first one.
Can't tell you what the second one is. I got the recipe for one of the big delis up there.
Coriander.
Could be, yeah. I was going to say could be coriander.
And in this part of the rub, I use ground coriander that came out of a bottle of ground coriander that I have. But when I get ready to do my rub, when I smoke this, I've got whole coriander, and I'm going to take my whole coriander and I'm going to work it in my mortar and pestle and break it up, because that is a flavor bomb. I don't know if you guys have ever if you've ever ground your own coriander, but let me tell you something. If you ever do that, you'll probably never go back to buying ground coriander again, because the aroma element of freshly cracked coriander. Coriander is a spice. It's a seed. Which herb is it related to, Jeff? Is it cilantro?
I'm not sure, John.
Coriander seed comes from another plant that we use the herb on, and I can't remember if it's cilantro or something else. If any of you guys that are listening know, give me a comment. Janice, okay, yeah, it's cilantro. Coriander is like a cilantro seed, sort of. So there we go. Yeah, I wasn't sure. It's been a while since I've read about that, but when I buy my coriander, I buy the whole coriander, and I use my mortar and pestle to break it up to whatever consistency and coarseness I want. And for this, I like it particularly coarse. I like big chunks of cracked. I would call it cracked coriander at that point. And I'll have cracked black pepper, cracked coriander when we get ready to smoke this thing. I might put a little bit of garlic, a little bit of granulated garlic in with it. But I think I might just make a very simple black pepper, ground coriander or cracked coriander and garlic rub for this. So that is that's all I've done cooking wise this week, except for, normal. I haven't had a lot of grilling going on this week. I've had some other things that going on this week that I've had to deal with that have kept me away from my grills just a little bit. Don't you
I'd be
hate
a
it
law
when that
against that.
happens? Yeah, well, I'm blessed to have 5-day weekends every week, and I get a lot more grilling time than a lot of people do. So yeah, I'm not retired yet, but maybe. I don't know, Jeff. I've been thinking about my retirement, and currently my game plan is I'm probably going to work up till about noon on the day of my funeral at the rate I'm going. So, Uncle Nearest, by the way, this is good whiskey. Brian, that's a good question. I've got 2 of them, and I'm going to be honest with you. Both of them are equally good. One of them costs $50, and the other one costs $20. So, if you want to see what I'm talking about, go to the Traeger website and look at Traeger's big spatula. I've got one of those. It's big. I love it. It's big enough that I use it to lift pork butts off the grill when I'm moving pork butts around. I also will use it to pull a brisket off the grill along with a heat resistant glove. But I came across a clone of that guy at Walmart, and I think it's the Pit Boss brand. And Walmart's got one that I think is equally as good for $20. So check those out and get one of them, because it's a highly valuable tool. I like mine, and I've got 2 of them. I can see one of them over here, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure where. Let me just grab it and show you. This one, this is the Walmart Pit Boss one. My Traeger one's laying around here somewhere. I'm not sure. I don't see it here at the moment, but this is a big spatula. It's got a sharp edge or a sharper edge up here and another one on the side. But this guy is also big enough to smash burgers with. And
That's not a spatula. That's a putty knife.
well, it's too big to be a putty knife, man. This would be a putty knife for the Jolly Green Giant. This thing's, I don't know, 8 inches maybe that direction, and I don't know, 5 inches, 5 or 6 inches, 5 inches that way.
Yeah, Tom, it's a pizza peel.
Don't ask me if it's boy inches or girl inches, because I don't know. Tom, yeah, it's a pizza peel for somebody that makes very small pizzas. So that was a $20 pickup at Walmart, and yeah, you need one of those. I like mine. And let's see. One of the things I did also, since I didn't have a lot of pictures and cooking to talk about this week, one of the things I wanted to open up the floor here. We got Super Bowl this weekend, and I know a lot of you guys got plans and cooking plans for Super Bowl. And what I wanted to do was maybe create a little Q&A. You got questions for me and Jeff about your Super Bowl cooking. What are you going to cook, or what do you have any questions about what you might want to do? What's going on your Super Bowl menu for Sunday when you grill this weekend? I'm sure a lot of you guys are cooking over the weekend. What's going on? What have you got planned? Tom says he's cooking at Atlanta Grill Company tomorrow. What are you cooking down there? What's going on? Cindy's making chili. I got no problem with chili.
Nothing wrong with chili.
Heck no. No way. Chins is asking about cornstarch smoked chicken wings. Let me tell you about that. I have tried that and I don't like it. Jeff, help me out here. Why
Don't like it.
why would we use cornstarch instead of flour? If you'll taste cornstarch and then taste, I shouldn't recommend you taste raw flour or raw cornstarch actually, but I don't like the flavor of wings that have been done with cornstarch. I can taste a difference. Jeff, what do you think?
Totally agree with you. I do my wings naked, but like I said, I do them on the Pellet Joe, which I
Yeah.
think is the ultimate wing cooker.
I like to use flour, and what I like to do is when I get my wings prepped, I buy the whole wings. I don't go buy these bags of flats and drumettes. I buy the whole wings and break them down myself because usually I end up with bigger pieces, that bigger flats, bigger drumettes, and I think I'm probably getting them cheaper than I am if I'm buying them broken down already. But I like to get those. I like to cut them down. I like to dry them by hand with paper towels. And then once I've got them dried, I like to toss them and get a very thin coat of extra virgin olive oil on my wings. And then I make sure I don't have any excess of that olive oil. And then I'll make a seasoned flour. I'll take all purpose flour. I'll add some salt. I'll add some garlic powder. I'll add some paprika, or I'll add some cayenne pepper, or whatever's close by, black pepper. I'll mix something in to where I'm not just having flour. I want to bring some flavor to that layer. So once I've got that little bit of oil there, I toss those wings in the flour instead of something like cornstarch. And then those guys are ready to go to a hot grill. And Jeff, they're not gonna buy this either because Jeff and I do this because we've seen the light. Jeff, what temperature do we cook wings at?
Minimum of 425.
425, 450. Hotter is better. And
Hotter.
When you put those wings that I just described on that grill at that temperature, that flour, what's going to happen is that flour is going to do what it's supposed to do. It's going to crisp up, and you're going to have a crispy wing that's going to blow your mind in about 30 minutes, at 30 to 40 minutes max. And they're amazing. You'll never go back. So Chins is watching. He's following us from YouTube tonight. So try this, and then let me know how you like what I just described compared to your cornstarch method. The thing, cornstarch, I've seen the technique and I tried it just so I could know, but the purpose people were using that for is just to dry out the wing, and I really don't think the wing needs drying out after you've done it with a paper towel. That's enough for dry.
D. Barnett had a question. I can never get bacon crispy on jalapeno poppers. Advice?
Well,
I don't know that you're going to get bacon completely crispy because you're going to start getting the moisture out of the jalapeno, and that's
You
going to
won't.
keep it.
Well, it's not just that. The jalapeno poppers are used.
Oh, John, you just froze.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I here?
Yeah, you're there now.
Okay. I can never get bacon crispy on jalapeno. D. Barnett watching on YouTube also. The only thing I can recommend for you there is I can recommend two things. Number one, do not use thick sliced bacon. Use thin sliced bacon. And if that doesn't help, the next option is to raise your temperature that you're working at. Do it at 350 instead of 250 but then again, I don't know how that's going to behave because I've only done these poppers at 250, but try prosciutto. What do you think, Jeff? Would prosciutto crisp up?
It might have a better chance of crisping up because it's so thin.
Right.
I say, yeah, that's a hard situation to get across because, like I say, you're getting steam and whatnot from the jalapenos, and
Okay.
I just don't
One
think you're
other
going to
thing.
get a real crisp bacon that you're
What,
wanting.
what if you par cook the bacon a little bit? I
I don't
don't know.
know.
I've not tried it. I'm asking. Do you think that would help?
It might. It might.
Huzaifa wants to know if I sauce my wings. Huzaifa, I sauce my wings. Absolutely. I don't think a wing is a wing until it's been sauced with something. That's just me. Uh, Wings are very personal. There's a lot of people that like wings their way. I like sauce on mine, and I like lots of different kinds of sauces on mine. Chris, that's a good question. I am. I'm trying to understand. Uh, there's some people out there dry aging pork, and they're dry aging. Jeff, there's a pork cut out there that's like the pork version of the beef prime rib that's bone in, got the
Hmm.
whole loin there. I'm going to see about getting one of those because there's some people dry aging that, and I
Hmm.
need to investigate it, Chris, because uh, I don't know what the process and procedures and times are there. I'm going to have to find out. I'd like to. I would like to dry age some pork if it's possible. I also am aware that you can do some dry aging with fish as well, and I'd like to experiment with that. I don't know. I'm learning this dry aging as we're going here with this new steak locker that I've got. I'm coming close. We're not but a little over a week away to my 60-day project on this big whole ribeye that I've got going in there now, the big bone in one that I got. I'm going to have some 60-day dry aged ribeye here before long. I'm really looking forward to that. But do you have some suggestions for me? Do you know something I need to know? I'm all ears on dry aging because I'm learning this as we go.
I just looked it up, John, because I didn't think anybody dry aged pork, but supposedly properly dry aged pork ensures no rancid or musty flavors, but delicious, inviting nutty aromas
Yeah,
and flavors.
I'm willing to
So
try, and I know
increased
one thing.
tenderness.
I know one thing, it'll be a hell of a lot less expensive than beef.
Oh, for sure.
But what I'm going to do, if I decide to dry age that cut, I'm going to buy an expensive cut of beef, pork. I'm going to go down to Heritage Farms and get the Cheshire pork. I'm going to get one from them if I decide to do that. Uh, Huzaifa, do I put it back on the? I do. I'll sauce it and I'll put it back on the grill for no at that same temperature. I'm still running, 400 plus degrees. It'll take 5 to 8 minutes. Set that to tack that sauce a little bit, and that's purely preferential. Also, you don't have to do that. But let me tell you this: if you're not going to go back to the grill before you sauce your wings or after you sauce your wings, heat your sauce. Put the sauce in a pan on the grill for a while and let that sauce get hot. Don't put room temperature or cold sauce on hot wings. That'll suck the heat out of them just like you do when you put a steak on a cold dinner plate. Heat,
Well,
what you got, Jeff?
I want to, since we're talking about Super Bowl snacks, I want to bring one up that I did recently on the bark that was just totally off the hook. And that's where you take thick cut bacon and you take the AGC pecan rub, sprinkle it on both sides, and then twist that bacon up and use some toothpicks to go through it to keep it twisted. So like
Yeah.
rolls, pinwheel rolls, throw them
Mhm.
on the bark. Oh, let me tell you what, that was off the hook. And I'm making them this Sunday.
Okay. Jeff, make some pictures of that, and we'll look at them next week. We'll bring that back. I'd like to see that. Matthew, I don't know what the most expensive pork is. I don't know. I'm sure it's just like anything else. I'm a big fan of what they call what's the word, Jeff, for the uh it's not it's there's a word for the pork, the like Berkshire pork and Cheshire pork, and it's heritage breed. What's the term I'm looking for here? I don't remember, but it can be expensive. Uh,
I think your rack of pork is probably your most expensive pork that you're going to buy out there.
that might be in terms of the cut. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna. I haven't been to Heritage Farms since the pandemic set in, and they had their general store down in the eastern part of North Carolina closed for a long time, but it's open again. I still haven't been down there. Uh, Maybe one day when my wife can go with me, we'll road trip down there because there's a couple of restaurants in that area I like to hit also. But and that's also a good opportunity for me to hook up with Chef Eric because he lives not far from there. And in fact, he told me to let him know next time I was coming down. And I need to get Chef Eric back in here with us sometime soon. Also, I'll see if I can't make that happen in March. Uh, we've got a couple of guests lined up. I told you guys last week that I had invited the owner of Fireboard to come on with me, and he has agreed to come on. And uh, currently, I believe that's going to happen this coming Friday, not a week from tonight. I think we're going to have Tom Cochran, who is the owner of Fireboard, come on here, and we're going to talk about temperature controllers, and we're going to maybe get some insight about uh, how he got into what he's doing because I know you guys all know I'm a big cheerleader for Fireboard. I love their product line, and I feel really privileged to have the opportunity and maybe have him on with us. We're going to have two guests in a row. The following week, we're going to have a bourbon tasting guest that I don't know if Chris is in here with us tonight or not. I haven't noticed. Chris runs the guy that's going to come in here and talk with us about bourbon tasting is oh boy, we're at Chris. Speaking of Chris Taps with us from Louis Deli and Meat Market. He's out just in the suburbs of Memphis, but we're going to have a bourbon tasting, and Chris is sending me some samples of some Four Roses stuff. And when I figure out exactly what it is I'm getting, I'm going to let you guys know in advance. Where if you want to source these bourbons and go through this tasting process with us, we're going to learn a little bit about how to taste bourbon, the different flavor aspects of bourbon, and it should be really fun. And Chris runs a YouTube, not a YouTube, a Facebook group called Food and Booze Geeks, and I've been a member of that group for a while now, and it's a lot of fun. There's as much discussion about bourbon and whiskey and wine even as there is cooking, and they're not all the cooks there are not all grillers and smokers. They're real cooks. There's some amazing food flowing through that group. So if you're not a member of that group, check it out. And when Chris comes on with us, I'll have a link on the screen to that Facebook group where you can see it and check it out. It's a really great group to be a part of. There's some really cool people floating around in that group. And okay. Louis, Chris Tapp says, let me know what cuts of pork you like to try aging and I'll hook you up. Let's see. Duroc pork. That's one of the varieties, Chris. There's a lot of these. I don't know. They're called heritage breeds. Maybe they're. Let me break that down. What happened back in the 80s or maybe even in the 70s? Whenever you would hear these TV ads where the pork industry was running these ads, and their mantra was the other white meat. You remember that, Jeff?
Yep.
What they've done is they've genetically bred out everything that's good about pork. They've made the pork leaner through breeding. They've Andrew, thanks for coming. But they've kind of bred out everything that's great about pork. We went through this phase where everybody decided that fat was the enemy in their diet. So everybody said we need to eat more chicken and fish, and we're not going to eat as much pork and beef. Well, the pork industry says, oh, well, we can breed out some of the fat in our pork. But these, what I call these heritage lines, like Chris mentioned there, the Duroc pork, the Cheshire pork, and those other breeds, they have not had that bred out of that pork. That when you look at this pork, it's got a deeper red color. Iberico pork, yes, that's another one. That's another one that's along the same lines. These breeds of pork, when you look at this meat, it doesn't look like the pork chops in the butcher case at the grocery store. It's a deeper red. It's got some marbling in it that you won't find, and that's the kind of pork I like to buy. So, Chris, yeah, I'm looking for something like the prime rib of pork, which would be the bone-in loin. It would be the exact same thing as a bone-in ribeye, whole ribeye. You know, I don't know how many bones are on a pork rack compared to a beef. I know that doesn't work out the same, but for dry aging, I need it to be minimally trimmed. I need the bone on, and I need, you know, fat caps on and everything else. I'll hook up with you, Chris, in the next week or two, and we'll talk about it, and I'll figure out what it is I'm looking for. Chris Tapp runs this Louis Deli and Meat Market. He's got a Facebook page also. He's out of like I said, it's a suburb of Memphis, Tennessee, and I was fortunate enough to get to meet Chris at an Atlanta Grill Company event a while back, and you guys all need to meet Chris. Chris, we're going to hopefully have another event at Atlanta Grill Company maybe this summer, so maybe we can get together again and talk about this. So, all right, I'm at my hour mark. I'm not going to run too long again tonight. So I got another comment here I want to look at. Jason's asking, do I still have that broiler from AGC? I do. That's the name's escaping me. The Jeff, what's it called?
A salamander.
Salamander, but it's the Auto Wild.
Yeah.
Jason, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to tame the flame on that thing. I'm going to make some video content with it. I need to play with it some more. There's a learning curve. I'm going to tell you, just be honest with you, there's a learning curve to using this. And I got to thinking about it, and I should have used it last week when I did that tomahawk ribeye. I should have used that thing to sear that ribeye instead of using the PK grill. And I'm going to do some cooking. I've been playing with it, and I've about got it sorted out. That thing produces heat that is just unimaginable, and I'm still learning how to tame it. I've got to be comfortable with using it before I'm going to make more video content with it, because it's a beast. It produces heat that you just can't imagine. I'm learning how to do it. So yeah, I'm still working with it. And yeah, Randy, I still love the PK Go. That's the most incredible small grill on the planet. I love it. And we'll do some more content on that before long as well. So I'm going to wrap it up. And like I said, hopefully next week we're going to have Fireboard Labs on with us, and we'll be talking about temperature control systems. Anthony says Carolina Butcher Shop. Yeah, I think I've heard of that one. I need to check that out. But yeah, I'll be running. Is that the one that's got 3 different locations? It may be. I've looked at several out that way, but man, I like the Heritage Farm stuff. Chef Eric turned me on to Cheshire pork, and that's where I get my pork cheeks. I love pork cheeks. Tanya won't eat them, but man, I about forgot to bring Tanya back in here with us. Tanya doesn't like pork cheeks, but Tanya, we need to make a run back down to the eastern part of the state and hit Heritage Farms when you've got a day off.
Okay.
Chris, thanks for coming. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry,
Tanya's tired.
I'm tired.
Are we keeping you up, Tanya?
We woke her back up. Well, we've been an hour and 5 minutes. Guys, thanks for coming, and we'll see you next week. Y'all have a good weekend. Have a great Super Bowl. Don't forget to post pictures of everything you cooked this weekend. So until next week, we'll see you later.